instrument.
Okay, we're recording.
Okay, so
So I'm going to go ahead and silence everybody.
Hey, Woody.
with what we've been doing, and I've really been thinking about whether I've seen anybody else or read anything close to what we're doing, and I really can't think of it. So you're getting the benefit of some exploration, not to brag, that could be pretty unique. And what we have done is we've started with the notion that energy is the ground of our being, is our higher power, is the face of God, that unformed energy. And that energy is compassion, that energy is consciousness. And that's been a problem in the West because we've tended to separate matter and spirit, and then you never can get it back together. My philosophy professor said that if you start out with an axiom that they're separate, then no matter how you argue, you never get back to being of one substance with the Father, which is not simply a claim Jesus can make. Every one of us is of one substance with the Father, and that substance is energy. Now, when energy, we first become aware of energy is when energy hits our body. So, what I've been encouraging you to see is that when God hits your eyes, God becomes color. When God hits your ear, God becomes sound. And that's some of our initial experience as children of the sacred, is that sense of our bodies. And it takes a while to myelinize and really get clarity of focus. But that's our first impacting of pure energy that we experience. All right. The second, and probably even first, is the breath. And so we did meditations to feel the sensations of the body, how our body experiences energy, then how we experience the energy of our breath. And we began to explore how on the in breath you can literally feel beyond the physical sensations a subtle increase in energy in your body. As you exhale, you can feel that energy move out, which is how I do energy healing. I put my hands on someone, I breathe in energy, I breathe it out through my hands, their body receives it. So now we're going to a different level. If the body was totally unobstructed, we would stay at this level, but we're not totally unobstructed. Once it hits us, it begins to experience resistance. And I saw a beautiful fractal of this where pure energy was shot through a medium. And what happened was it broke into a lightning fractal. And you see that fractal all over. You see it in lightning, you see it in the structure of rivers, you see it in the way frost develops, that there's this branching. And what creates the branching is the resistance. So as it hits us and we begin to resist that in our bodies, we begin to know it as emotion. Emotion is energy being sensed by your body and translated from a physical feeling into something that we recognize as an emotional feeling. Do you follow that?
Okay. So is it your brain then?
It's your brain.
Interprets...
Your brain down at the very basic fundamental place begins to establish, remember, you've got that lowest level of the brain, desirable, undesirable, neutral. Okay? So anything that is undesirable, the brain begins to resist. Anything desirable, it begins to pursue. So these things that we call feelings are really our body's resistance to the energy trying to pass through us. And I want to share a reading from Reggie Ray. From Lawrence Roche, the Radiant Sutra. And he says, people talk about mind and ego. And we're still doing that in our conversations here. People talk about mind and ego. Let's just drop this whole conversation. And this is the way meditation healing functions differently from therapy. Therapy wants to jump immediately into where did this feeling come from? Why is it here? What am I feeling as if that's important? Instead of seeing it, that is the resistance. That's one of the initial resistances to the energy is this. So don't even have a conversation about the way your body's interpreting the energy. Consider instead that there is no mind, there is no ego. There is only the vivid reality of this surprising moment at play and beckoning. And you hear me saying that. The damn universe is flirting with you. A beautiful lover saying, come play with me. And all these resistances that have developed in our body are what are blocking us from being able to go outside and play. Now, to find a very elegant description of that, I encourage you to read The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And the section I'm going to look at today is page 60 through page 62, 50 through 52. He says, your heart has chakras, and the way chakras work is they're either open or they're closed. So remember my description, this is hell, this is heaven. The constriction starts happening when we have a resistance to the energy that's trying to pass through. He says, the reason that we start closing off against the world is because of unfinished energy stored in our bodies. Okay, follow this thought, which is what the Hindus call skandhas. And skandha is like a whirlpool where there's an obstruction in a stream, and behind that stream, a little whirlpool develops. Now you can smooth it out like this, which is the way we treat our emotions, or you can remove the rock. And when you remove the rock, what happens to the whirlpool? So what Eastern thought does is rather than treating the symptoms, which is the whirlpool, it goes directly to the source. And the source is my resistance to the energy trying to pass through. So here's what's beautiful. He says, this is how the overall system of perception in the body is meant to work. It's meant to take things in, allow you to experience them, and let them pass through you so you're fully present to the next moment. While this system is in working operative state, you're fine and life is fine. You're simply having experience after experience. Driving is an experience, trees passing by are an experience, cars passing by are an experience. They're gifts that you are given and receive moment to moment, like a movie. They awaken and stimulate you. They're actually having a profound effect on you at an energetic level. Your heart and mind are expanding, you're being touched at a deep level. And if experience is the best teacher, nothing comes closer to the experience of life in this way. What it means to live life is to experience that moment passing through you and then be open to the next and the next. It's a phenomenal system if it lives properly. If you could live in this state, you'd be a fully awake being. This is what they actually do. They live in the now. Life is always in the present, and the wholeness of life is passing through them. It says, but that's not what happens inside of us now. Instead, it's more like you're driving down the street. Here come the trees, here come the cars. It's all passing through with no trouble. And then inevitably something comes that doesn't make it through. There was this one car, a light blue Mustang, looked just like your girlfriend's car. But as it passed by, you noticed two people hugging in the front seat. At least it looked like they were hugging. And it sure looked like your girlfriend's car, but it was just a car like all the other cars, right? Nope, it wasn't. It wasn't like all the other cars to you. And this is where the conditioning comes in, where the conditioned mind kicks in. The energy's coming in on a sensible level, no different than any other input that comes in. But all of a sudden, it hits a pre-programmed resistance to that particular form of energy, and the system shuts down. Says, let's look carefully what happened. He says, all it is energy coming in at a physical different distance, but at a mental level, the impression didn't make it through. So when the next moment comes, you no longer notice the trees. You no longer notice the car. Your heart and mind are fixated on that one car, even though it's gone. Now you've got a problem. There's a blockage, an event that got stuck. All the subsequent experiences are trying to pass through, but something has happened inside that has left this past experience unfinished. What happens then? Well, specifically, what happened to the image of the girlfriend car if it doesn't just fade away into deep memory? At some point, you'll have to stop focusing on it to deal with something else, like the next stoplight. What you don't realize is your entire experience of life is about to change because of what didn't make it through. That's simple, folks. Don't complicate it. Don't analyze it. Just see it as stuck energy. So today, what we're going to experience is to feel that moment, okay? So, as I say, you're going, everything's open, bomb, now I close. And this is where all the mental exercises and the emotional reactivity start, which we'll talk about next week, is that in trying to process this at the level of mind, the thoughts that you think about it only re-traumatize you. I want you to hear that. Thoughts have an energy of their own. So now I'm getting my energy from my traumatic past. And that energy can be tremendous. And when that traumatic energy from the past starts wanting to pass through, we experience it as panic. We experience it as a depth of loneliness. We experience it as a deep sadness, all right? But what's causing the sadness? Is it coming from the energy outside? No. It's being generated by your brain, by your memory system, by your traumatic networks of your brain. Your salvation is in letting go of that and learning to open. As Michael Singer says, there's absolutely no good reason to close. Are there any questions before we start? If you want to open it up for people.
They can unmute themselves.
Do you want to unmute yourself before we go into the meditation?
Or question.
Okay. Who is that?
Sherry.
Okay. So, this meditation is a meditation on resistance. One of the reasons that we sit, it's just like what you'll experience in a meditation center. Here I am, I'm quiet, everything's spacious. All of a sudden, someone starts talking in the hall and I close. And now my brain is out in the hall wanting these people to be quiet, all right? And I'm no longer having that expansive, pleasant experience. I'm having a constricted experience. So what do? I feel the resistance, I relax and give the resistance space to leave. All it is energy that wants to be processed, to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be embraced, and allowed to release. And that's what healing is. So just begin by closing your eyes. Beginning to bring your awareness to the body. And without judgment, with a simple awareness of open or closed, flowing or stagnant, full or empty. Begin to note the areas of constriction that have formed in the body. Not good or nothing to fix. Just a soft, receptive allowing. Of your body to be where it is, settling into experiencing it as energy. And as you come, let the breath naturally come to the level of the energy and the breath. Noticing any constrictions in the breath. In the abdomen, in the heart, in the throat, sinuses. Just opening your awareness to all the sensations that are present. And then allow your awareness to come to any area that feels particularly constricted. It could be a physical constriction. It could be mental or emotional. Whirlpool of resistance that keeps cycling the same thought and emotion. And allow yourself to experience this as sensation, as energy meeting your body and your body's response, not right or wrong. Just like your experience of green, your experience of green. This is your mind-body moment. Just bringing your awareness towards the feelings and the sensations. Not trying to change it, but just observing. And let yourself open to whatever arises there. As your awareness enters more fully, is there a feeling of tension? Any feeling of wanting to push it away? Do you find it difficult to hold your awareness? Do you find your heart closing? These are the natural emotional responses, conditioned response that your body has developed over time for protection. And just allow yourself to soften to it. Noticing as the mind goes to war with the discomfort in the body, it simply creates more tightness. The difficulty is resistance, and your resistance to resistance turns the discomfort into suffering. So experience directly your energy trying to push this energy away, to control it, to make it different. And as you see this without judging it, simply understand the nature. Energy comes in, it's perceived as a threat by your conditioning. Your conditioning wants it to be different. Energy starts pushing back, and suffering increases. So with a gentle allowing, without effort, without thought, without judgment, simply soften, open around the discomfort. See this as a body imprint, a mind-body state. Noticing how resistance can turn the moment into a crisis that feels unbearable. The mind and body clamp down on the discomfort, holding it into the body, intensifying the pressure. And if you can feel that energy wanting to expand and the energy required to hold it in place, see the energy holding it in place as a fist. fist that traps the pain, won't allow it to simply be. Seeing directly the truth of the body, holding energy, closing to it, and how the more the mind tries to fix it, the more it's held. And with compassion for yourself, not a tense irritability, not at war with the moment, but simply allowing all of the energy, sensations to float in a merciful awareness. Receiving each moment as it is, allowing it to come, to impact, and to release. A moment to moment, softening to the discomfort as it reestablishes itself. Not pushing anything away, but receiving it in a soft receptivity. Opening to the sensations, to whatever emotions arise, to whatever resistance arises. The palm of the fist softening, fingers releasing their hold as you open. Opening around the sensations and emotions. Surrendering the resistance that intensifies your pain. Maybe using the breath to create space. And with the out breath, allow the energy to release. Opening and allowing the energy to float free in the softness. What initially felt solid and impenetrable and immovable begin soften at the edges and dissolve in space. With an allowing receiving the moment in softness and in care. Softening to the resistance to discomfort, even the resistance to healing. As you open to a deeper life, perhaps even just a moment of catching the body. Softer, more open, beginning to feel movement and sensation as feelings arise and dissolve and begin to float free in the body and in the spacious mind. Moment to moment, letting go. Moment to moment, compassion and loving kindness. The mind aware of even the subtlest twitch of resistance, and allowing the resistance to dissolve in the space. Perhaps catching just a moment of the possibility of the soft, open spaciousness of being, in which the energy of life simply floats in tender, merciful awareness, releasing all resistance into the vast spaciousness of the heart of being. Into the compassionate awareness which is your true nature, beyond body, mind, or emotion. Just energy dancing in vast, edgeless space. Spaciousness beyond the body, beyond the mind. Compassionate awareness which has room for it all. As you allow being to unfold without resistance. All right. Questions, comments? Just undo your mic.
You know how everything drops when you're older? Besides, I, I, I decided during this meditation that my heart is in my gut. Because
Okay.
that's where the resistance is. So I thought, oh, that's dropped too.
Uh, Well, it's that you say that because I really believe that heart is a bad translation. And I really think that it really means the interconnected, the intersection of all the chakras at the center. All right. So, yes, heart does include third chakra and fifth chakra because your heart will leap into your throat, it'll sit in your stomach. And what you're really talking about is that system of valves opening and closing. Okay. And that's a different thing than what's happening at the level of neurotransmitters firing. Does that make sense? Which is why love is different from an emotion.
Mhm.
It's a state of being, it's a stance in the world that says, I am open. Okay. I'm giving and receiving. It's a flow through that chakra system, if that makes sense.
Good sense.
Okay.
So for me, when I say healing light, it's difficult to not want to change my discomfort and kind of use the healing light to change my discomfort. When the healing light you are saying is just opening.
Opening to that.
Right. And if I say healing light, my mind immediately wants to heal my discomfort, not feel my discomfort, but heal it because I'm tired of it.
Okay.
And that's not, that's difficult, I think, for me.
Good awareness. And I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Stay with the openness and watch the still wanting something different, something to be different, because that will keep the suffering. It will hold the energy there, Corinne.
Right.
So, if any of that resistance at the moment is a resistance to the energy of light, that shuts you down. So it's not that you're right or wrong. Just understand what you're doing. Okay. If I allow that to stay established, then I'm closed. And when I'm closed to my discomfort, I'm closed to my joy. I'm closed to everything. So when I'm sitting there following that blue Mustang around, trying to figure out what that was about in my head, everything else is gone.
You miss the moment.
I miss the moment.
I'd like to share a joy with the Shanga here, please.
Yes, I'm hoping you got good.
Yeah, I have good news.
Oh, look,
Oh, no.
Oh,
baby.
it's beautiful.
How precious.
As my grandson, Abel Byron Carrier.
Very good. ABC.
Abel.
Yes.
Hey,
He's beautiful.
that's
Yep.
great.
Universe
Thanks,
has just
Brad.
thrown out another form. Yay.
Yeah. In spite of the milieu into which he's born.
Light born in the darkness, my friend. That's what this season is about.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
Mm.
Thank you all.
love got hearts flowing all around her.
Mm.
Congratulations, Brett. Is this your first grandchild? No.
Yeah. And I have been wanting it because I'm in my 80th year now. And I was beginning to wonder if it was ever going to happen. So it happened. And it happened beautifully. Perfect mother. I'm really impressed with the mother.
Great.
Congratulations to that baby.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Okay. Anybody else?
I guess I'll say, oh, Channing was waiting to talk. Channing,
Go
go.
ahead.
She didn't put herself up though, so
You get to go, Tom.
I guess what I wanted to say is what what came to me that really connects with this this morning is yoga, because yoga is such a great practice for when I get into a pose to feel my body and soften, to release all the energy that's tightened up to hold me in a pose, and just let it all go and release everything. And it's a good awareness. It's the same kind of awareness to just open up and soften and let everything go.
Yes. And that's
Is it-
exactly how yoga works.
Mhm.
And what's missing in the way yoga is taught today is that it's not taught breathe into the resistance and breathe out the tension and soften into the space that you've created, and that will heal you emotionally. But there's no difference between the body and the mind. So what you're actually releasing is the trapped energy in your body. All right. So we don't have to cry. You don't have to get angry and pound a pillow with a brick or something to release energy. That's what I want you to understand. It's energy, not an emotion. It's an energy translated by your brain as an emotion. But when you trace it back to its core and what it actually is in your body, it's resistance to energy that wants to leave. And you don't like the way your body translates it. Okay? It's like being angry at your body for translating yellow as yellow. It's what it does. Okay? It translates this experience as sadness or this experience as fear. But don't resist that. Let that energy that gets generated pass.
So another source of energy, usually unwanted energy, is fear. Like you were talking about your girlfriend's blue car. What if it was a memory of a blue car that, I don't know, hit you a few years ago, or it's some fearful thing, and thinking of fear as expectations of false expectations appear real. So what happens to me sometimes is the fear is triggered by a fear of something that I'm expecting to happen in the future or could happen in the future. My inability to cope with something, or I have to get up on stage and speak to 100 people and I freeze. Nothing comes out of my mouth. That jolt of energy, I find much harder to dissipate and calm down. I mean, I realize I'm doing it, and then I go into my breathing. I guess much the way the Navy SEALs are taught to do breathing when they're in a crisis situation. But this is, not a crisis situation. It's a crisis that I've made up, basically. And so that's I find that to be a lot harder to dissipate.
Exactly. So you're saying exactly where we're going to go next week. Is that so? That kind of fear gets activated in a half a second.
Yeah.
It's not rooted in expectation. It's rooted in trauma.
That's PTSD.
Which is what PTSD is. It's an automatic response. Your brain has interpreted it through past trauma, senses a danger, puts you in fight or flight, activates the adrenal glands in a half second, never reaches your cortex, Channy. There's no way to not have that. It's not related to thought. It's related to physical conditioning, traumatic conditioning of the body. And that's extremely hard. And it's one of the reasons that trauma is one of the real challenging areas to bring mindfulness into, is to teach people with trauma how to sit with it and how to let that powerful energy move through their body without needing to do anything about it. I still can't do it. Let me ask a question. Marilyn, where's,
I see.
okay,
There she
Marilyn, didn't you study with a Rinpoche out in Hawaii?
Yes, I did. Lama Rinchen.
Okay. He, I think, was quoted in a book once of saying anger should be like a summer storm. It should hit and then be gone.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then his next comment was, gosh, I wish I could do that. Okay. Because even though we can conceptualize that, it gets caught in other skandhas as thought patterns, okay, that I need to do something, okay, which is what Shenpa is. Shenpa is the movement from the brain's conditioning to a need to do something. And this is where Pema's teachings are so powerful, is to resist that and just sit with the energy as long as you can. She said, don't lean to the right, don't lean to the left, don't get attached to it, don't resist it. Just let it go as long as you can. So combine this with the teaching. If I'm really struggling and I'm panicking and I feel like I got to get up, should I sit there and suffer through that? And do you remember the answer from Sharon Salzberg?
No.
No. Too much
So her
suffering shuts you
equanimity.
down too.
Mhm.
So no pain, no gain. Too much pain, no gain. That's the window of tolerance we're working in. So yes, Shanny, that's going to come. It's going to be extremely difficult. So you watch the shitstorm. That's what we'll work on some next week, is how then the feelings generate a thought. The thoughts generate more feelings. I start catastrophizing. The more I catastrophize, the more fear it generates. The more fear it generates, the more things I feel I need to control until I'm immobilized. Am I right or wrong?
Mm.
All right. And
Well, I try to, I can see it happening. And I can say to myself, okay, Channy, you're starting to spiral.
yes,
Stop it now, so that I never get to the point where I'm freaking out. But I still have to take a deep breath and work
Right.
it through, so that I can stop it before I spiral down into the ground.
so just tweak that a little bit and watch the word stop it
Mm.
and replace that word with soften. Resistance to resistance is suffering. So if I try to stop it, then I'm practicing and hardwiring in my
Mhm.
brain resistance and control. So that's what we're making an effort to do, is to undo that
Mhm.
flight into control, because notice what happens next. Any of you, what happens when you try to control it and it doesn't get controlled? Then the fear becomes panic, or the anger becomes rage, or the sadness becomes despondency. Yeah, it
And sometimes the
intensifies.
more you try, the worse it
Of
gets.
course, not sometimes,
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
I used to teach box breathing. And any kind of breathing exercise, whether it is a box or a rectangle or whatever, any kind of controlling the breath, diverts your attention, for one thing, so that you're not fixated on the object of the fear. And it also has the physiological response of triggering the parasympathetic nervous system. So I highly recommend it, before the fear gets to panic, to do the controlled breathing.
absolutely. Now, okay, go ahead.
Well, I was going to relate to a yoga experience, and several of you on the screen will recognize it in the strap series. We call it the whoosh. We call it ride the whoosh. So at the end of one of the pretty deep stretches, we are asked to simply let the strap go that you've been holding on to, soften, let the strap go, slide that leg back in and just land. And then not move anything. Can you resist the urge to then straighten up, align your legs, do whatever? Or can you just let go of the urge to control and
That moment.
manage everything? And it's a great practice for life, which is what we're talking about. I had the hilarious moment one day while I was having my hip surgery. I was guiding my live class from a chair. So I was guiding them through the strap series, and I gave them the cue for that. Now just let go, whoosh, roll onto your back and not move anything. And I looked around the room, and there were probably 9 or 10 yoginis in there, and every one of them moved back into place. And I was just like, oh, I didn't say anything at the time, but it was such an awareness that they couldn't not do anything. And so we've had a laugh about that ever since. And in fact, this week we practiced the strap series, and I reminded them of that moment, and they all giggled and laughed. And of course, now I'm on my back, so I didn't get a good view of the room. But hopefully some people could actually just not do anything and just, let that urge to control
Okay.
pass.
So
So,
Linnell, you weren't teaching during your surgery, were you?
no. Oh,
It
yeah.
was after
well,
the
I-
surgery.
I took a week off, 1 week.
Okay, but you weren't actually teaching while you were under,
No.
under surgery.
Oh, no.
So let me just say, one, as a teacher, those are those moments where you will go, I fucking give up. I'm wasting my damn time.
Oh,
But-
well, let it go
And-
is what I had to do.
And in the hope that you're actually teaching anything. So you say, so why do you teach? Why does the bird sing? I teach because I teach. That's what I do. Not to get anybody to learn anything. So you all are off the hook. Just keep after you flop.
What's Tom?
It gives
Tommy?
us job security.
Tommy's got a comment.
I've been watching Woody waiting to say something and no one acknowledged her.
Oh,
Tom's
Tommy's such a
taking
great
care of
moderator.
me, but I'm deferring to Ajna because she has not said anything, and I
Okay.
can't keep my mouth shut.
go, Ajna.
Oh, I just had to share something that I remembered from Jill Bolt Taylor's book, My Stroke of Insight, talking about emotions and how they work physiologically. And she says in her book, it takes less than 90 seconds for an emotional program to be triggered, surge through our body, and then be completely flushed out of our bloodstream. My anger response is a programmed response that can be set off automatically. Once triggered, the chemical released by my brain surges through my body, and I have a physiological experience. But within 90 seconds from the initial trigger, the chemical component of my anger is over. If, however, I remain angry after those 90 seconds have passed, then it is because I have chosen to let that circuit continue to run. Moment by moment, I make the choice.
Ooh, boy, that is wow.
That good Jill Bolt Taylor. Yeah.
That's intense. I'm sorry, that hit me like a ton of bricks because I don't know if you all remember a few years ago when I first joined, I talked about being addicted to my anger, loving it. I needed it. I was righteous in it. It was mine. I had a right to it. Remember?
Mhm.
And wow, that was good. Thank you, Ajna.
And it's a,
Hmm.
yes, I have a right to have no immune system. I have a right to have no energy. I have a right to not be able to digest my food. I have a right to tear down my telomeres. I have a right to stay in a state of reactivity all day long. Baby.
Right. Look at me exercising my rights.
That's right. And
But Tiffany, that surge of energy from the anger and the rage and the feeling of self-righteousness, damn it, I have a right to be angry because whatever happened and so has insulted me for the 9 millionth time. So that surge of energy actually feels good, doesn't it?
Yes,
It
sure
just
does.
makes it like, wow, you just took an upper pill.
Yep.
And but the problem is if you stay in that mode of energy surging, I mean, think of what happens to an electrical circuit when it has a surge, and it doesn't, and you can't stop it. It burns out, right? You get, you get a spark. The circuitry blows out, and that's what can happen to you if you keep doing that over and over again, getting addicted to that surge of energy from the rage, from your the rage is not self-inflicted, it's the perpetuation of it.
Yes.
Letting yourself spiral down into continuously. So that's what is the danger of letting that happen.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
so again, I hope that you hear in that reading that it's about chemical reactions in your body. All right. Your brain is interpreting it as something different from energy. And that's the mistake. That's the mistake. It's not something real that needs to be addressed. It's a chemical reaction in my body trying to get me to do something. I'm sitting on my cushion in my sanctuary. There is nothing that needs to be done. That's why we sit in the quiet, so that as the emergencies come up and that intense desire to change something, or avoid something, I can soften. I can handle this. So it can be pleasant and powerful. It can also be, if it's a surge of fear, extremely disconcerting. It's still energy. Still energy. So you're exactly right. Where we're going is how the mind reinforces, then becomes a source of counter energy in resistance to life, which is what ego is. It is my generation of resistance, using my personal life force energy to fight with life. Then what happens? Okay, so tune in next week for the result of this. Thank you, everybody. So, almost out, Omi.
Okay. All right. You can unmute yourselves if you like. Deep breath in. Thank you, everybody. Y'all have a super good week.
Next week.
All right.